And then on the hopeful, like we figured out how to do it side, I did spend some time in Iceland. And I went there because I was very interested in learning more about the short work hours movement. And when I first started reporting, I became, I'm going to be really honest, I tend to have workaholic tendencies. So there was a part of me which is like, I don't believe it. Show me the money. Can you really do the same amount of work at the same quality in a shorter amount of time? So I was kind of skeptical. And also, as I was looking for places to report, most of the places that I found were kind of in knowledge situations, office workers, more privileged workers, and I got really worried that if the short work hours movement was really all about, let's face it, tech bros working shorter hours so that they could go surfing on Fridays or whatever. I'm sorry, I'm being a little facetious, but I became very worried. Like, what would that mean for when you think about women? If I'm interested in gender equality, so many women are in low wage work. Well, where's their shorter work hour? How would that work for them? And so I became very worried that the shorter work hours movement could be another marker of inequality, of privilege and the inability to access that, around gender and around class. And so a friend of mine said, well, you should go to Iceland because they made short work hours available to 85% of the workforce. And that's everybody. That's, people who work for the prime minister, who I interviewed. And that's also, people who are pool attendants and shift workers. And I think what's important is that it's a shorter work week at the same level of pay. So it's not like shorter work week and less pay. And I think what was so exciting about that is that, again, for women, the whole goal for them was both well-being and also gender equality. And I talked to one of the architects of their short work hours plan, and she was really worried. She said, we wanted men to take the time that they had when they weren't at paid work, and we wanted them to be more involved in their unpaid work. And she said, we were really worried that they would go surfing or that they would go to the gym, but that's not what happened. So what they're finding over time is that men are more involved with care at home, and that women who had been working what had been considered a part-time schedule just because of their care responsibilities, now that sort of the structure has changed, they're now working full-time hours. And so then that means they'll have more economic stability over their lifetime. Their pensions will be bigger. They're considered full-time workers now. So that was really exciting, sort of in the bigger sense. And then in terms of the stories that I found, I talked to a police officer. People think, how could a police officer work at a shorter work week? And it was so interesting how the changes that they made, how they kind of work together as teams to try to figure out how to get the work done, but do it in a more effective and shorter way. And he just said, and now, I know what size my kids' clothes are. I take them to their, how many guys will say like, yeah, my wife does all of that, or my partner does all of that. He takes them to different, he not only takes them to different events, he signs them up for them. So he does a lot of that kind of logistical and mental labor that so many women still are expected to do. So that was a really exciting story. And I opened the chapter with a man he's a solo dad. He's got 3 kids, and he calls his shorter work day his sacred day because he spends it with his children. And so I got to spend a sacred day with he and his children. And that was really lovely to see that there's benefits, not only for their health and gender equality, but also in the relationship he has with his children and what they're experiencing as they grow up.